Happy Friday. Welcome back to Mets Daily. I'm your host at Jake Brown Live. Subscribe, smash that thumbs up, and comment below. All right, let's get right to it. Breaking news. This is my third time recording today because of the news. The first time was no coaches fired, then it was two, and now it's everybody. So let's get to it, folks, on a Friday edition of Mets Daily. The Mets have announced plenty of changes. Pitching coach Jeremy Hefner is gone. He has been fired. Hitting coaches Jeremy Barnes and Eric Chavez are gone. Thank you, God. Third base coach Mike Sarball, he is gone. Bench coach John Gibbons has resigned. And catching coach Glenn Sherlock, like we talked about, has announced his retirement. Assistant pitching coach Desi Drischel and bullpen coach Jose Rosado have been given permission to speak to other teams pending the selection of a new pitching coach, so I would assume that they might be out the window. First base coach Antoine Richardson is back. Strategy coach Danny Barnes is back. And coaching assistant Rafael Fernandez is back. Wow. Let's breathe. First off, hitting coaches had to go. Eric Chavez was fighting fans on Instagram. There's no place for fans to be sending him death threats and things of that nature. But Eric Chavez did not do a good job. The Mets' approach at the plate was terrible. Him and Barnes had to go. John Gibbons leaving. He said he wanted some younger juice, some life into them. That's perfectly great. I mean, listen, the Mets need to get younger as bench coach. I would think Carlos Beltran's going to be in the conversation there for either hitting coach or bench coach, one of the two. If he would choose to do that, he might want to stay in his cushy front office role. A lot of people thinking about third base coach and thinking about Edgardo Alfonso as a name. Maybe Ron Washington, who was let go. Maybe they go that route. We'll see. But they need to get younger, a former player who players can lean on and trust. And Gibbons was fine, but he was 63 years old at the back end of his career. So that makes a lot of sense. So let's see if they go with a Fonzie or a Ron Washington. Willie Randolph's a name that's obviously going to come up. I don't know if they would go back down there, but I'm sure Willie would be happy to be back in baseball since he's basically been out of it since what happened there. So curious what they go there. Pitching coach, we'll think about names. I don't have anyone off the top of my head right now at the moment, but that's the tough one. Jeremy Hefner, this was a guy that the organization loved. They raved about the pitching lab, but the reality was this. Starting pitchers couldn't go 5-6 innings at all. They couldn't go deep into games. Mets walk numbers were up the wazoo this past season. The pitching regressed, and in a big way. And you did not expect guys like Kodai Senga, Sean Manaea, your horses to really do as bad as they did at times. And, as good as Senga's ERA was for the first half before he got hurt, the reality is he was walking a lot of guys. He was putting a lot of guys on. And listen, that's partially on Hefner and the coaching staff and Drischel. Like if he ends up leaving, if the new pitching coach ends up getting rid of him as they look for other jobs, that's pretty much word for get out because the new guy is probably going to can you anyway. So this was the right move for the Mets here. And, Antoine Richardson staying is also the right move. Players raved about Richardson. The Mets' stolen base numbers were insane. Like, they could not get thrown out. That would have been travesty if they fired Richardson. I don't know much about Danny Barnes, to be honest, but I know Fernandez. Players also raved about Rafael Fernandez. That would have been a tough one to let go. Danny Barnes is the one I can't say much on because I don't know much about him. But Glenn Sherlock retiring. Gibbons, like I said, younger juice, get maybe a former player in that role. This is a big shakeup for the Mets. And, I think what this means here for Carlos Mendoza and why it's important to bring in a good bench coach is that bench coach is probably going to replace Carlos Mendoza. If the Mets have a similar start to what they did in 2024, where on Memorial Day they're 11 games under 500, his seat is going to be hotter than fish grease. Like, Carlos Mendoza, if they start bad, is going to get canned. He is a lame duck manager. And this was my issue with keeping Carlos Mendoza around. You essentially have almost a fresh start with this coaching staff, with a manager working with all new guys. You would have liked a fresh manager bringing his own crew here. So I'm not in love with keeping Mendoza because of all these changes, but he's here, and now we'll see. What do they do? Now, listen. In the end, guys, it comes down to this roster. It comes down to players. It comes down to the Mets getting better pitching, getting better hitters, getting better defensively. That's the number one thing. But I thought the coaching staff outside of Antoine Richardson really did a piss-poor job. And the only minor surprise I see on here is Jeremy Hefner. But I think he's been here long enough. And, that speaks to their pitching. It's on coaching, and they really got so much worse. And that's what did the Mets in the second half is pitchers' inability to go deeper into games. And listen, that's also on Stearns for not bringing enough pitching talent. I think the Mets need a Garrett Crochet kind of arm, a guy that they could trust to give the ball to every 5 days that will get into the 7th inning more times than not. The Mets didn't have that, but they also didn't do a good enough job of strategy and too many walks and approaches. So a massive change here to end the week. We told you it was going to happen either Friday or Monday. It's happening on Friday here, and we'll see where the Mets go from here. Now, remember, some of these coaches might still be working in the playoffs, so we'll see where they end up going. Speaking of playoffs, as we transition to the current playoffs, the AL and NLDS are now set. Who do you guys got going to the World Series? Let us know in the comments below. Also, smash that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, and follow me at Jake Brown Live on all social media. The second round set, congrats to the Yankees. They moved past the Red Sox. Cam Schlittler, I knew that was going to happen. 8 innings, 12 strikeout ball. Gaussman is going to start for the Blue Jays in game 1 tomorrow at 4:08. It's Blue Jays Yankees. I'm going to take the Blue Jays in 5. I just think they just have more talent, man. I think that lineup is dangerous. Their pitching staff is dangerous. Yankees coming in a little bit gassed here. I also don't think Aaron Boone is a good manager, so I'm going to take the Blue Jays in 5. And then I'm going to take the Mariners in 5. The Mariners are my pick to come out of the American League. I just think they got so much power in that lineup, a really good pitching staff and a bullpen. And Seattle, man, they're craving a championship. That place is going to be rocking in Seattle as they face the Tigers, who got past the Guardians in Game 3. I'm going to take Mariners in 5. In the National League, I like the Cubs. I like the Cubs in 5 games. I just don't trust the Brewers ever in the playoffs. I don't trust that pitching staff. Something about the Brewers, man, a great regular season team, but they always fall apart in the playoffs. So I'm taking Cubs in 5. And then the series that we're all going to close our eyes as Mets fans, I'm going to take the Dodgers in 5 over the Phillies. This is a tough draw for the Phillies, man. Like, great season for the Phillies, division champs, great record, second best record in the National League. But the reality is the Dodgers are a juggernaut. And you saw it against the Reds, who you wish the Mets were in because I think the Mets would have gave the Dodgers a better fight. But this is tough. Without Zach Wheeler, it's going to be an uphill battle. It's going to be Ohtani versus Sanchez in Game 1. I'm taking the Dodgers to win that in 5. I think they all go 5 games. I think they're all going to be really good series. But I'm going Jays versus Mariners, Dodgers versus Cubs, and I'm going to say the Dodgers over the Mariners in the World Series. Let us know your predictions below. Let us know your comments below because we're going to read them now from Thursday's Mets Daily Show. Thank you all for chiming in. Let's get to your comments. Here we go. First off, from Mets Daily Insider member Shakamoto says, how much runway are we giving Mauricio and Vientos? Vientos, I think the Mets need to do all they can to trade, guys. I just don't think there's a spot for him. He's really just a DH, and the Mets got to do better at DH. They can't do a guy that was inconsistent as Vientos was. And I know people are going to say, look what he did in 2024, but maybe that was a mirage. Maybe that was a one-year wonder. So I would do all I can to move on from Vientos. Mauricio, I think, is going to start in the minor leagues. He has an option now next year, which means he can go up and down, and he didn't get enough at-bats this year for you to justify starting him on opening day next year. So I would start Mauricio for the first couple months, let him get some actual ABs in AAA before giving him a shot. I think the Mets are going to be in the market for a Ketel Marte, maybe it's Eugenio Suarez. They're going to move on from Jeff McNeil, so we'll see where they go there. From Jay Martinez, 9332. If the Mets would have got in, they would have felt like a house money mode where they got nothing to lose and have teams that can be very dangerous. You have to remember, even if they had a horrible regular season, a good pitching performance in Game 1 eliminates the horrible record of the regular season. You're not wrong, Jay Martinez, but the reality is they still would have had to face Blake Snell in Game 1, and that would have been a tough draw. And even if the Mets won Game 1, how are they getting through Game 2 and 3 against that juggernaut Dodgers lineup? So I agree the Mets would have been in a better spot. No doubt. They have more talent than the Reds. Would they have got past the Dodgers? That's just the luck of the draw, and unfortunately, I think it was just too tough a draw for no matter who it was. From Mallox88, you got it right. Get rid of Marte. We need ace pitching. I agree. From Alfred G1202, good player, but I'm okay with moving on. I agree. That's on Starling Marte. From Dr. Manhattan 1929, there's no way you fire the hitting coach and Moses staff and not fire Hefner. Hefner has been too long. Been awful to say the least. Under his tutelage, the pitching staff since 2021 have led the league in walks. This should and cannot continue. Fire Hefner. Well, Dr. Manhattan, one day later, bro, you got your wish. They fired Jeremy Hefner. From Stuart Austin 9123, I saw Marte make so many big outs in clutch spots. He's going to be 37. He's lost his speed and he's become a big strikeout hitter. No thanks, move on. I agree, Stuart. He really did come up in a lot of spots and either struck out, grounded into a double play, grounded out, swung at the first pitch. A lot of pull your hair out, and I have no hair to pull out moments from Starling Marte. Radiant Valorant OP says, no one on your bench should only be limited to DH role. If they can't be a good utility player who can play multiple positions, in case of a pinch, they have no business being on the roster. People can go temporarily DH as bench player somewhere else. Go waste teams' roster spot. Don't touch my Mets. I agree. Got to be more versatile on the bench. Got to be able to play different positions and do it well. And Starling Marte didn't do that. From Mets Daily Insider member, you can scan that code, become one for $5 a month. Marielle 1973, she said no to Marte. I agree, Mary. No speed. Are you kidding me? He's faster than most of Mets players, says Latin 17190. He's really not, though. His baseball savant sprint speed numbers were not good. Taylor's faster. Acuna's faster. Lindor's faster. Nimmo may be faster. I think they had more speed. Bart Sherman 7716 says Marte doesn't help with run prevention 100%. Does not play good defense. From Josephine Delicato 1922, he says, got to bring up the young guns, sign Pete, sign a legit bat, sign a legit starting pitcher, fix bullpen. Mets have guys coming back from injury. 2026 will be much better. I agree 2026 will be better. I don't think they should sign Pete, but I do think there's young guys on the horizon and some moves to be made in free agency and on the trade market. You're going to see the Mets make a couple big trades this offseason. Last one from Jay Martinez 9332. If you can get him for $5 to $7 million as a depth piece with no promise of regular play, I'm okay with him. If you get the expected injury the Mets always get, he'd be a nice emergency fill-in, but not a regular star when Mets are healthy. The problem is he is an injury guy. Every year Starling Marte does get hurt, and you're saying $5 to $7 million like it's nothing, but if the Mets are blowing through the luxury tax, that's double. And if they wouldn't pay Jose Iglesias $4 million, why are they paying Starling Marte at 37? $7 million. So I don't think you should bring him back. I could see him going somewhere like the Marlins and tutoring some of those young guys as a part-time player. All right, folks. A lot of coaching shakeups. We got plenty of talk about this offseason now. We got obviously free agency, trades, Alonso, Edwin Diaz, who's going to be the pitching coach, the hitting coaches. Lots of moves to be made. A big shakeup to end the week here on Friday, October 3rd. Thanks for watching. Smash that thumbs up, please. It helps the channel. Hit that subscribe. Hit that share. Share with your Mets fan family and friends. And again, keep on commenting because each week we're going to be reading your comments throughout the offseason right here on Mets Daily. I'm Jake Brown at Jake Brown Live. Hit that follow for your boy as well. And we'll talk to you on Monday. Have a great weekend. And thanks for watching, everybody.